So last week I did go to the cinema to see the Odyssey, and I want to talk about my thoughts about it briefly. I don't have that many, but I have a couple. First things first, everybody was talking about like how it's super woke and like the miscasting of certain actors and what have you in it. I did not find that anywhere in the movie that you had noticed that any of that would take you out of it at all. I don't think that was really an issue at all. I don't know why people were so worried about it. Apparently Elliot Page or Elliot Page now was supposed to be Achilles, but not Achilles, completely different character. So like it doesn't even really matter. Anyway. But other point was I went to a really cool cinema which had like these seats and they could like have the legs and they were like the sofas that we get at home and like had like electronic button, legs up, and then the thing goes back and there was so much space in between the person in front of you, so you don't see the back of the people's heads. That's what I hate about in this going to the cinema, when you can see their heads in front of you and then I'm just trying to sit up super tall and then other people are seeing my heads and it's just a bad experience. But like there was so much space they didn't see the people's head, not that there was anybody in front of me anyway. But yeah, they were really cool seats, and then you could lift up the armrest in between me and my girlfriend. So I was like, wow, this is great. The only bad thing was very cold. Was not IMAX. I did not see it how Christopher Nolan intended. No, I did not. There's not very many IMAX screens, and even the one that we do have in Dublin apparently isn't a proper IMAX. It's a digital IMAX, which is not the same thing anyway. The point being, I did see the movie, and I do have some other thoughts. One of the main things, yes, it is a mythological journey. It's not like Troy is almost, which is the kind of the start of the movie, where the rest of the Odyssey takes place obviously afterwards. But Troy feels like it could have really happened, even though it's probably a fictitious event. There may be historical evidence for an actual city of Troy and multiple battles that have happened in that place, but never the one that is described in the fiction and the works of this. And then the Odyssey is even more, because it deals with lots of mythical creatures and gods playing about with humans and what have you. So it's very much a fantasy story in the same regard that other types would be, but written a long time ago, 3,000 years ago or so. So the point I think that it missed in making, and this is one of the things that I don't know why Christopher Nolan didn't put this in, because I really think it's what makes the whole thing really good. And I may be wrong on this point because I'm not really so studied on the actual source material, but I think in the cave with the Cyclops, when they leave, the Cyclops shouts and is like in pain and is shouting at them, but then Odysseus shouts back to the Cyclops. They've escaped the cave, and he's like, let them know who blinded you. It was me, Odysseus. And like out of his ego, out of his pride that he couldn't let go, he had to let this Cyclops know that he was the one that did it. He wanted the glory. He wanted his name to be recognized. He wanted to be, a hero or whatever it is. And his hubris in that moment is then what caused him to spend the next 10 years struggling to get home, and all of his ships were lost and all his men were dead because of that reason. Obviously spoilers, but I don't think you need spoilers for a book that's 3,000 years or whatever. But the point being, not many people have read it, so maybe you do need spoilers. Anyway, it was in The Simpsons, so I don't know where, if The Simpsons have done an episode of it, do you really need spoilers? Not that everybody's seen The Simpsons, but like, I'm tangenting here. The point being, like, this hubris of a man, and the whole point of the narrative nearly felt like the hubris of a man can cause this external suffering to other people and like hindrance in your own life. And had he just been able to, yes, he defeated, but not to boast about his victory to this creature, this ice-like Cyclops, who's the son of Poseidon, who then, prayed to Poseidon to curse, essentially, or like, make him die. I think he was trying to get against Odysseus, let him be trapped at sea forever. And had he not done that, he would have got home a lot quicker. And I think in the movie they briefly see it where like Odysseus shoots back at the Cyclops, and then the Cyclops runs after them to the sea. And if they hadn't done that, the Cyclops was kind of letting them out of the cave, and because of him shooting back. But like, I think that's such a different thing to screaming your name out of hubris. And I would say, had it been more character driven, because it was very much more plot driven, like story beat, story beat, story beat, and not so much character driven on the part of Odysseus, though there were some parts. But I think that was really like a core factor, and like showing, this hero of the story isn't perfect and has like these significant flaws about him, and then overcoming that in his trials, is a good story and what have you. And so I think there's a shame that that was not put in there, because I think it would have made the story that much better. And even the setup towards the hubris, because he's the guy who thought about the Trojan horse. And so, he's already got his head being big. And even before that, like, he's supposed to be known as this very clever king of Ithaca, in the movie Troy as well. And from the story of Troy, he's known as this very smart king. And so it's interesting to think that that was what he was talking about. And yet, it was not really shown in the movie, him being super clever at so much. We did do the Trojan horse thing, but like, you don't see the smarts, him thinking of the plan. You don't see him like wrestling with it, like coming with the ideas as much. And the hubris, the pride of the boasting of the man, and shown that as a weakness, and that's what caused the suffering then because of this. And I think that was a missed part on it. And I guess all the rest of the story beats do play out as they should, but I do think that, is what makes the story interesting, when you have a flawed character, and either characters come to terms with that and have a redemption and learn and overcome their character flaws, or they don't. And even still within that, they attempt to, or even refusal to, is still an interesting narrative from a character point of view when telling stories. But, like, obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about, because, Christopher Nolan has made some incredible films over the years. I would say this one is not my favourite. I enjoyed watching it in the cinema. I don't know if I'd really ever want to watch it again. Maybe I'd watch it straight after watching Troy, do a back-to-back of them for some, reason, in a few years, a decade or so, maybe. But yeah, I didn't enjoy the movie like I enjoyed his other. Like, I love watching Inception. It's so fun, and Batman, and even Interstellar and stuff. This I did not enjoy watching. And like, I enjoyed Oppenheimer, the narrative of the story and everything that was going on. And there was this tension, you felt in that movie, like, of them not wanting to, like, and the guilt, or the understanding of what the weight of creating an atomic bomb and then dropping it on people. You at least you felt the weight of that decision in that movie, and like the consequences of that. And I think that was really important to portray in that movie. But in this movie, I think the character where he's wrestling internally with his own flaws was not so presented. There was like him being in charge, and his crew not having lost faith in his ability to command and lead them, but that wasn't over his hubris as much as it just seemed to be, things were going wrong. Whereas if you take the original story, but like, I could be completely wrong, because one, I have not read the actual narrative. I'm just taking that from someone who I heard say that to me, that was the point of it. And I was like, and that was from before watching it. And I thought that was, an interesting point, and I was looking out for that then, and it kind of didn't happen because, for whatever reason. Anyway, yeah, that was my thoughts on it. I would say 7 out of 10. Worth seeing in the cinema, but not his best work. And yeah, Thanks for listening. Have a great day. I wish you luck.